So once you bring them out of brumation, do you have like a period of time to where you kind of bring their body heat back up? And then when would you start feeding your females and males?
So for brumation in the past, what I've done and what I really liked and saw good progression was that the brumation chamber stays fairly dark. They're going to be underground naturally, so instinctively they know that the light's going to be out. So you'll bring them into a photo period of, 8 to 10 hours when they first come out. And you can, if you have a control on your shop or anything like that, you can tweak that a little bit to where, maybe 1 month the photo period is, it's on, the lights are on an hour longer a day, and then full breeding cycle, it's, 12 to 14 hours, something like that. So that's on photo period. So on temperature, you want to graduate them. So if they're being brumated or hibernated at 50 degrees, you'd like to try to find an area that's 60 degrees and maybe leave them for a day or two, 70 degrees day or two, before you bring them out. But generally 7 to 10 days of being out, I'll set them up and set the females up in their, oh gosh, what is it? 42 quart tubs is what I use for my girls. And I'll use like one of the large rectangular, like food storage dishes. I have a hole cut in the middle of that, and then it's filled with sphagnum moss as a moist chamber, but that also acts as the nest box. But that's in there all year long. I have that in with all of my adult females. Once they get to 150 grams, they all have a nest chamber in the enclosure with them. Okay. So obviously coming out of hibernation, it's not going to be as moist in the smaller container. But once you put them in their container, they can go to where it's moist, kind of hang out a little bit. It's just got damp sphagnum moss or even like cocoa peat. And they'll just hang out in there for a little bit. And then maybe a week or 10 days after they've been in there, I'll reintroduce food. Generally, with the food, I'll go something smaller, like a small adult mouse, maybe even a fuzzy, just to kind of boost that metabolism. Once they poop, I'll graduate back. So right now I feed my animals anywhere from 1 to 2 times a week. That's just general for everybody. If a female's, ramping up for breeding, then she might get fed quite a bit more often. If she's at the front of the enclosure doing like this at me, when she sees me go by, she's starving to death, and she's got eggs that she needs to, get nutrients for, so she gets fed more often. But that's generally what I do. And then kind of coupling, that topic into introduction, I always introduce the male into the female's enclosure. Mm-hmm. Her enclosure is going to be laden with pheromones. So you also want to watch for shed cycles. Anytime the female sheds after coming out of hibernation, I throw a male in there, okay, if it's not already in there. But they don't have to have that.
Exactly. That's how my female didn't have a pre-ovulation shed. So
yes. And they can store sperm. The longest I've had a female store sperm was, let me think about it. I had 2 of them that one just blew my mind, but one double clutched and I got like 23 eggs, and she had not been paired with a male in 17 months. So she stored viable sperm. So in their oviducts, I don't have this in any of my more recent books, but my first Hognose book, I talked about the physiological elements of a female hognose snake. And so they have oviducts that the sperm live in, and then there's electrolytes that are there, and that's what the sperm feed on until she's ready to cycle. When she cycles, the hormones release, and those oviducts open up, and the sperm go and do what they do. I think I had another one that was close to 2 years that retained sperm. But animals in the wild, I breed box turtles. Those guys have gone 8 years holding sperm. I saw them copulating, and then they were by themselves forever, and then all of a sudden she lays viable eggs, and I'm going, holy crap, here I am with 4 fertile eggs from that breeding with that male that, I gave away years ago. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So, and that throws another wrench into the whole deal too, with the multiple male breedings. So a lot of times you don't see a copulation, but there are clutches that a lot of folks in the industry that have had 2 sires for a
Wow.
clutch in the same clutch. So that's kind of interesting. So you kind of got to watch that. One thing I watch for is if I pair some animals, I'm looking for slime trails. So slime trails is just where the dried semen gets on the back. You can use a UV flashlight and see that, or you can look at the sheen of the back. Usually it happens right on the back. So sperm plugs, sometimes you can find those. The males will force those out. That's just the dried semen inside of the area, and it'll get forced out. And that's just something that you might see. A sperm plug usually doesn't mean copulation, but if I can see, a sheen going down, the back of the female, I can usually guarantee that they've had a good lock, maybe, overnight or whatever.
Okay. All right. And so once you have a good lock and your female becomes gravid, about how long does it take from a lock to where you can visibly see that the female is gravid?
So the quickest lock to lay that I've seen is 3 weeks. So like
3 weeks.
20 days, 20 or 21 days. Now that's really, really, really early. The most of them are about 30 to 40 days.
Okay.
So that they'll, but where I'm judging that, those are ones where the female sheds. I throw the male in there. I'll witness a lock or see a good slime trail, and then start counting from that point forward to when she sheds again. Usually after a pre-lay shed is typically 6 to 14 days after that shed. Then they'll actually lay their eggs. So that's pretty standard. But for me here, I don't know if it's altitude related or temperature related, but almost every single snake that I've got that lays, it's 6 days from the time they shed out to the time they lay eggs.
Okay.